If you spent any amount of time in the last year or couple of years consuming content around dirt late model racing, whether that's regular coverage or social media chatter, you've probably run into this idea of the widening competition gap. There seem to be a lot of people who believe that as rules continue to evolve and things get ever more expensive, that the difference between a top national touring team and the regional and late model teams is getting worse. The thought is, if you race regionally or locally, that your chances of running well when Lucas or the Outlaws come to town are getting ever more difficult as the big teams continue to spend big money on development and testing, especially when it comes to things like aero. We're coming off of a speed weeks where a handful of teams were fast every night, and it's not hard to see why this feeling is starting to become more pervasive. I wanted to see if some of the stats told the same story, so I dug into the analytics section over at dirttracker.com to see what I could find out. Between the Outlaws and Lucas, I looked at the total number of winners for each season going back to 2019 and 2020 respectively, plus the number of drivers with top 5 finishes each season and some win percentage stuff among other things. The most damning metric I have for both series is that the number of winners for each year stat. For both the Outlaws and Lucas, 2024 saw the fewest number of winners for each series going back over that span. Lucas had 14, the Outlaws 12. The previous low over the span for Lucas was 15 in 2021, and the Outlaws had 14 in 2019. Lucas peaked at the number of winners in 2022 with 21, and the Outlaws' highest was 2021 with 22. I know that's confusing, flipping those numbers back and forth. Anyway, and even among those 14 for Lucas last season, none were really regional or local guys. Tyler Urban, Brandon Overton had series wins as non-full-timers, but nobody is characterizing those guys as regional. With the Outlaws, we did have Ross Bales and Dylan Knowles score wins, but those were both split field prelim nights. Expanding out a bit, looking at drivers with top 5 finishes, this stat a bit better, not quite as strong a piece of evidence for this widening gap. Neither the Outlaws or Lucas had lows in this category in 2024. Lucas had 38 different drivers with the top 5. The Outlaws had 41. The least for Lucas was 32 in 2021, and the Outlaws had 38 in 2023. So clearly, still plenty of chances to grab some top 5s with each series. And when we look at overall win counts with the same guys with Lucas, they win more often than with the Outlaws. The top 10 on the Lucas win list have taken 81% of race wins, while the top 10 on the Outlaw win list have only won 67% of races. And again, this is going back over the last couple of years. The perception has been for some time that Lucas is tougher, and this would seem to point to that. Also, as I said a second ago, Lucas has fewer winners overall. In the past 275 races, Lucas has had 36 different winners. With the Outlaws over the past 266 races, it's 48 winners. So in line with that perception, it does seem as though the World of Outlaws is maybe a tad more gettable for those local and regional guys.